I found just if maybe 6 out of 7 days out of the week, I'm eating a really good way, I can have a meal or two a week where I don't have to feel shame about, I ate the ice cream I said I was never going to eat again today. Give up and forget my health journey. Isn't going on a diet the stupidest thing in the world? That, hey, I'm going to go
Yes,
on a diet for a temporary time to temporarily take care of my health, which means I'm not going to stay this way and continue to do this. And I'm going to go off the diet at some point.
I've never, ever, not one time left the gym thinking, man, I wish I didn't get up and go to the gym this morning. Almost every morning that I have gone, I wake up thinking, man, I would really rather not go right now. No, that's not entirely true, right? But often, right?
Welcome to the Everyday Leader Podcast. Leadership is a choice. Join me, Matt, and my co-hosts Drew and Tate each episode as we break down how to lead powerfully in your family, team, and organization.
Welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Leader Podcast. Hopefully this actually records. I'm doing this from my phone today because new equipment and nothing's working. So, but excited to be with you, Matt. Excited to jump into some things with our listener today.
Yeah, totally. Excited for what we're going to talk about as well. It's just a quick disclaimer and Drew can introduce the topic for the day. Neither of us, and especially me, are experts in the topic that we're going to discuss from like a scientific or certification standpoint. And we each have a lot of experience with taking, our self-leadership seriously when it comes to our physical health. So we do have that, like our own experience to share, and believe that it can make a profound difference for you too.
Yeah, and so kind of with that, we want to just talk about why it's important for a man to take care of his health, and why that's important to us, but why we feel it's important for you and important for men. And I think it's interesting, the world we live in. You scroll through social media, you hear 100 different ways you should be taking care of your health, or what way is best, or between society and the pressure of that from the physical aspect to, how important it really is for your physical and mental health, to just wanting to live a longer, better life. There's just a lot out there, and it's a topic that I think is sensitive for some, and at the same time, I think you have a choice, and it's something you can take control of. And what I will say, I know there's some that have actual physical ailments that sometimes make some of the things we talk about maybe unrelatable. I don't know if that's the best word. There are some.
Well, certainly
yeah.
like more challenging.
Right. There are challenges and disabilities and diseases and things that exist that sometimes you literally don't have control of, and you still have a choice. The end of the day, and so, I've always known you, Matt, as a seemingly fit and healthy guy. For me, that hasn't always been the case. I've gone on a journey. If you've listened to this podcast a while, you know. But what I have found is when I take care of me and when I prioritize my health, it seems like I have more energy, I have more stamina. My kids get a better version of me. My wife gets a better version of me. And it seems to help me in all areas of my life. What about you, Matt? Have you experienced that?
Yeah, for sure. So it's funny because I haven't talked a lot about this, not because I don't want to. I'm just realizing I've never really even shared this story. I don't even know if you've even heard me talk about this a lot. When you said that, it's mostly true and not entirely, like that I've always been a pretty healthy and fit or active person, So when I got out of working in production agriculture, which it was like 16 hours every day, sometimes you ate, sometimes you didn't, you're always moving. It was just kind of like baked into the lifestyle that like you were super active. I don't know that I would include healthy with that because, again, not a lot of intention around like, am I eating in a way that's really useful to my body, and certainly active. However, after that, I was working for a company in Wisconsin. I was traveling a lot. I was on planes a lot and hotels a lot, like on the road a fair amount. And I had also just turned 30, and I was not like again, maybe I don't share this story very much because I wasn't like you, Drew. Like I didn't lose 100 pounds or whatever, and I was as heavy as I had ever been, and also just like as feeling like as unhealthy as I had ever felt. And I remember kind of recognizing that and being like, I don't think I'm okay with this. I would love to do something about it. And fortunately, I had cool people around me that were like, hey, let's go to the gym together. So that became way more consistent. I mean, this was only like 2.5 years ago when that became way more consistent. I had always played a lot of basketball and, kept moving and stuff like that. But that was huge. And then around that same time period, also recognizing, like, again, from cool people that were around me and people I was associating with, started to help me see more and more like, oh, what we eat is so important, that like you can't out exercise a really poor diet. And I don't say diet like go on a diet. I just mean like the term diet actually means like what you consume. Society kind of turned it into like something you go on. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like what you eat is your diet. It's what you consume and like the way that you eat. And so that I will say both together are awesome. And if you're more inclined to only start one, start with what you're eating.
You said
It's
said
huge.
something that makes me want to go on a little rant, Matt. not that you
Okay,
not
yeah,
that you said that I disagree with,
No, I'm with you. Let's go there.
but like, okay, isn't going on a diet the stupidest thing in the world? That, hey, I'm going to go
Yes, it's
on a
absolutely.
diet for a temporary time to temporarily take care of my health, which means I'm not going to stay this way and continue to do this. And I'm going to go off the diet at some point, which then means I'm probably going to go back to everything I was doing previously and not actually make any real progress in my life. Like, I just always thought that that's so fascinating when someone says I'm going on a diet, because it's always this temporary behavior change without long intention. And yeah, it's I don't know. It's just interesting. I don't think I thought about that much in the past, and over the last couple of years, as I've made changes in my health, it's like, who wants to go on a diet? I mean, and I get it. Like maybe you got, maybe it's spring break next month, and you're gonna have the shirt off, and you want to look good, or maybe you're like if you're bodybuilding for a show and you're doing a really intensive diet for that show, or there's something that requires you physically to change for a short period of time, or maybe even a 6-month period of time, the way you're eating. That's one thing. But just to go on a diet, I don't know. What a stupid thing to do. Maybe I'm going to get some pushback
Yeah,
from
well,
this,
so
but
no, I hope that everyone can hear through this, which is that oftentimes like going on a diet is from a place of shame.
yeah,
It's like I should be better. And it's very like behavior focused. It's very outcome driven, and it's not identity driven. Meaning, and so here's the distinction, right? So if you're like, well, okay, so I'm not supposed to go on diets. What do I do instead? What we are inviting you to do is to consider, like, when you see yourself more powerfully and you see yourself as a leader and you take 100% responsibility for your health, you can start to see that like you can shift the way you see yourself and your identity as someone who is healthy, someone who takes care of their body, someone who eats wholesome. And it's not, doesn't have to be like crazy rigid, it doesn't have to be miserable. It's just a shift in the way you see yourself. And in like, I'm not going on a diet. I am eating in a way that's useful to my body and to my health and my wellness and my progress. And yeah, that's been huge. I eat significantly different. And there's definitely things I don't eat now that I would have 3 or 4 years ago without even thinking about it. And now I definitely think about it and typically don't eat it. And so, well, let's just talk about some specifics around food, because it's so important. Like it all starts. I mean, I posted on LinkedIn recently about how important the kitchen is for a lot of reasons. Like what you are putting into your body is the foundation for how you feel and the energy you have or don't have, and your ability to feel healthy or not, and your progress, whether you're trying to build muscle, lose weight, all of that is completely dependent on what you're eating. And so my most simple, again, no, I'm not an expert. We're not getting into like the science here. It just from my experience and from learning from people who are experts, if you can first and foremost focus on eating protein and drinking water, the rest of this whole thing becomes way more simple. Because from my understanding and my experience, when you're eating adequate protein, which is about a gram of protein per pound of your body weight a day, slightly less, maybe 0.75 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. And you're drinking water, you are just less hungry. You're less snacky. You're less likely to be craving things that are not super great for you to be eating. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean don't eat carbs. It doesn't mean carbs are bad. Focus on the protein and on drinking water, and you're less hungry. You're eating less junk. Your body's able to handle the carbs in a way that's useful to it. And so that's just a really simple place to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that note, like my diet, the first diet I did, which was really helpful in a lot of ways. Like I think there is a place for diets at the same time, but despite the rant, and that might sound like I'm contradicting myself at this point, but the carnivore diet was the first step in my weight loss journey, and it wasn't sustainable forever. It's like I wasn't going to choose to do that the rest of my life. And what's also really interesting about what you said, like I've prioritized protein in my diet, but now I also eat more carbs than I ever ate while I was dieting that way, because I've come to understand the relationship between proteins, carbs, and fats and calories and tracking it all. It's really interesting that, I had someone close to me that's heard me talk about things several times. And they finally reached out to me this last week and was like, hey, thanks. I started tracking this last month and lost weight that I haven't been able to lose in a long time, because I just started tracking and became aware of how many calories I was actually consuming on a daily basis. And I don't think, to your point, Matt, I'm currently tracking. I'm working with a coach. I'm trying to do some body recomposition. I told him I want to look like Captain America. So stay tuned for that. But to that point, it's like you don't have to. I don't think you have to go as extreme as always tracking your food all the time either. It's like if you looked at things and you're like, hey, I'm going to do what Matt said and try to get, I'm a tall guy, 200 pounds, 200 grams of protein a day. That's a lot of protein. And if you just eat,
it's like a full-time job.
If you just eat food, like what's on the shelf, what's on the gas station, and you track that, and you don't intentionally look to get protein, it's like, it's really hard to get 100 grams a day. It's like really hard to get half of what you need without being intentional about it. So
yeah, definitely. Another thing that I've heard talked about in the past that really helped me, again, because just so you know, I've never tracked.
Yeah.
It's cool because I've watched Drew like go all in and be pretty hardcore about it. Like we're on trips sometimes and he's like scanning everything and recording it. And I'm like, yeah, I've never done that. And that's okay. I have made this shift in my mind where it's like, okay, I want to eat 70% of the food that goes into my body on a daily basis is the way it came out of the earth.
Yeah.
Eggs, meat, vegetables, fruits. It has not been processed, right? And or adjusted or mixed up or anything, just like the way that the earth produced it. And then 30% is not that, right? So that's like some of the dairy things that I love dairy. I thought about cutting it out for like 4 seconds, and then it's like, no, I love all those things way too much. And, so like yogurt and granola and the good things, they're just like, they're not as whole. And then also in that 30% is like, I love frozen custard and I love ice cream and I love chocolate and I eat that stuff.
Well, and I still do too.
In crazy amounts, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've also found, I don't know, maybe we need to just call it the 70% rule, but I've found where if I'm really intentional about the way I eat at home, then when I go on a trip, when I go on a vacation, I can enjoy the food or enjoy the family, the family dinner when you sit down with your family on Sunday, on one day of the month or something, and get people together. And I can just enjoy that. And I don't have to worry. Like, and you know what will happen if you do tracking, you're meticulous. Usually you see a spike in your weight for a few days. You have some inflammation because you've had a lot of sugar or additional carbs or something, and your body soaks up some water weight. But then it's just gone in a few days too. And I found just if like 70, 80% of the time, 6 out of 7 days out of the week, I'm eating a really good way, I can have a meal or two a week where I don't have to feel shame about, I ate the ice cream I said I was never going to eat again today. Give up and forget my health journey.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I hope that you can all hear this. Like, I've never said I'm not going to eat ice cream. I say I am going to eat ice cream less than, 20 or 30% of the time. I'm going to have something like that. Again, this allows you to make progress and start taking action in a way that's not so hardcore that if you slip up or, right, there's not even any cheat days, right? I'm not planning a cheat day because I never said I was going to not eat it. I'm planning on eating it, but in a way that it's like, and in a proportion that works. So, and again, this definitely works when you're focused on protein, because you're less hungry. Your body's able to work with the carbs that it has in a way more efficient and productive manner. So, another thing we did as a family around this time a few years ago was we got everything out of our pantry that we had decided was below our standard. It was like a foul ball. And it was really funny because, and that was pretty cool. We put it all on the counter and then we threw it away. And it was like we had this family activity around it. And it was good. The kids were on board and slightly sad. And then our second child, our oldest daughter, it has a sweet tooth, like more than our other kids, more noticeable. And she just like scavenged the pantry for weeks after, finding any little scrap of like Halloween candy from 2 years ago, Christmas peppermints from 3 years ago. And then she moved to the like baking drawer and she's like picking chocolate chips out of the corners, out of the flour, like that spilled randomly. And so we were like, wow, this poor kid. However, my point in all of this is that one of the things that can help you the most is don't buy the stuff. If it's not in your house, guess what? You're not going to eat the stuff that's not there. And then it reserves like those times where you're feeling like, hey, I want to go eat like a nice Blizzard or something. It's like, cool, go get one. And don't keep like 6 cartons of ice cream in your freezer and then be surprised when you're eating it every night at 9:30.
Yeah.
So, and if you're like, well, my wife's not on board or my spouse is on board, it's like, no, like take 100% responsibility at that point, right? You can still choose. And if you're trying to blame your spouse for what they're cooking or how they're eating or not eating,
That was me.
that's not gonna. Yeah, I remember you've talked about that
Yep,
before,
that was
right,
me.
Drew? That you're trying for your weight problems.
Yeah, it was all my wife's fault. If she didn't cook so well, I wouldn't have ballooned up so much. So no, that's so good. I think like I really think you could summarize most of this up. What we've talked about so far is just prioritize protein, remove processed foods. And it's crazy. Like if you get as far as tracking calories go, if you have rice, potatoes, and some chicken, it's crazy how much of that you have to eat to replace the same amount of like, I don't know, just junk. Like, a candy bar could be 400 or 500 calories and a whole plate full of good food could be that same 500-600 calories. And so it can be kind of eye-opening as you start. If you go as far as to look at the labels and look at the difference between processed and unprocessed foods, the calories in processed foods are just through the stinking roof. And a lot of fat, really high fat content. And I've also learned there's nothing wrong with fat. It's just fat is the most dense nutrient that has the most calories. So reducing your fat helps you reduce calories. There's nothing wrong with fat. In fact, your body needs fats. But I'm not going to get into the different types or get into that. Another thing I would say, Matt, is just the importance I've found of like lifting weights, just going to the gym and doing some strength training. And I've heard some studies that say like 1 session a week, like a full body workout, compound lifts, hitting all your major muscle groups, probably do that in 30, 45 minutes. That will do about 67% of the results, like of your results. If you like I want 100% body build. And it's like, I think 2 sessions a week is like 85%. So it's like the data shows you don't need to be in the gym 6 days a week either. A couple days a week can actually do, especially if you haven't been in the gym in a long time, you can see a lot of progress and it just be really good for you. And so it doesn't have to be, I go to the gym for 2-3 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And notice that Drew and I have not talked at all about like any sort of benchmark or comparison for you because there's not one. Like other than being someone who's intentionally striving to be healthy and active and well, like that's all we want for you. And that's all we encourage you to want for you. Like, and then within that, there's a lot of things you can do. Drew wanted a 6-pack a while back, right? So then you go on an intentional journey to do that. Like I wanted to get down to 10%. Actually, I never even really set it. When I started a couple of years ago, I never set any goals or objectives. I never did any measurements or anything. And that's kind of wild for some people. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'm 9% body fat, like 200 pounds and just like feeling great. And it's interesting. I have worked out, to your point, like less often, not at all, but just less often. Like it was like 5 or 6 days a week for a while. And now it's less than that. And the maintenance is remarkable when you're just taking care of what you're eating and moving around consistently, right? We haven't really talked a lot about movement yet. And then just like you said, lifting heavy weights, working muscles that, in a way that's strenuous, a time or two a week, and then movement, steps, active. I take as many calls as I can, just walking around outside, go on walks with my kids, and play basketball. Just move is also a big part of staying well.
Yeah, movement steps have become important for me too. And once again, I track a lot of this stuff, so it's interesting what happens when you track it. You see like what life really is like. They recommend if you'll walk for 10 or 15 minutes after a meal, that helps with your digestion. You'll get 4,500 steps a day if you just do that. You do another 30-minute walk plus a little bit of movement throughout the day, you can get to 8,000 to 10,000 steps pretty easily. And there's a lot of study that shows just how good it is for your heart and for your longevity to be like 5, 6, 7,000 steps. Like 10,000 seems to be like the magic number everybody talks about, but it doesn't even have to be quite that much. But I think more importantly, Matt, I think why some of this is great too. Like one of it is like, hey, it helps keep your weight down, helps keep you healthy. I've also found it's been just incredible for how I mentally feel, not just like physically. My brother and dad are making fun of me because yesterday I go to step in my truck and I almost fall down and my knee's just hurting. I guess I'm getting older and that's part of life. But in general, I feel great most of the time. And mentally, it's been like what I've found about working out is whether it's doing some cardio or hitting the gym, like often doing something hard physically helps me feel better. It helps me get really focused on what I'm doing in the moment. It keeps me from worrying about what hasn't happened yet in my life that I'm making some story up about and worrying about for some reason.
Yeah.
And I just feel good. Like I had a few months ago where I was just, I don't like to run a whole lot. I do a little bit of cardio, usually at stair climber or walking really fast. My feet don't allow me to do a lot of running, but there was a night last year where I was stressed out and I went up and ran the bleachers for 30 minutes and like all the stress was gone after I got done running. The problems hadn't gone, but the stress was gone. My head was clear. So yeah, it's just incredible what it does for like you mentally when you, I like there's a Dan Martell quote I like, he says, exhaust the body, tame the mind. And I found that to be pretty true.
Yeah. I found myself saying this last week when we went to the gym when I was actually on a trip. And I've never, ever, 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 not one time left the gym thinking, man, I wish I didn't get up and go to the gym this morning. It's never happened. Almost every morning that I have gone, I wake up thinking, man, I would really rather not go right now. No, that's not entirely true, right? But often, right? It's like if you're tired, if you had a late night, there's just lots of things that come up and your mind's like, man, bed, like stay asleep or, comfort. And my point is that I've never done something uncomfy. And then when on the other side of it, been like, yeah, I wish I didn't do that.
Well, it's,
there's always like so much that's created for us internally and mentally and emotionally and chemically when you go do the thing that's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You never regret it. And so if you're having a hard time, like just getting to that point, again, give yourself a lot of grace. Start with it being identity driven and not comparison driven and say, I want to be more healthy. I want to be moving more. And then just start with some of these little things. Water. Like you don't have to pay someone a bunch of money or go to any crazy courses to drink more water or to eat more protein or to walk 10 minutes after every meal. Like these are just little things you can do that can lead and compound to a lot more if you want.
And if you want to Venmo us $50 for the advice, you're more than welcome to. But no, as you were saying that, Matt, what came to mind is just this idea that like don't wait to do things when you feel like it. Do things so you feel the way you want to feel. And that's what I found with my health. There's plenty, like you said, there's plenty, my wife needed to go to the gym early. I've been working out 6 or 6:30 most days. We got up at 5 this morning to go. And the reason we had to go ended up getting canceled today anyways. But it's like, I woke up in the first minute, it's like, oh man, it's early. I don't want to get up. And you get home and you're like, glad it's done. I feel great. I'd rather, because I did spend a lot of my life waiting to do things till I felt like it. And that didn't feel very good.
Yeah. Yeah, and what this has to do with leadership is this is self-leadership, right? This is like taking care of yourself. This is filling your cup so that you can bless other people with your overflow instead of everyone around you that you want to lead getting your last drops.
Yeah.
And this is, taking care of your physical health and taking responsibility for what you eat and put into your body and fill your body with is all part of how you can fill your cup so that you can bless those around you with your overflow. And another thing, like I love the definition that Brene Brown talks about, that leaders go where it's uncomfortable, or wherever there's a discomfort, that's where a leader's needed to go. And that's this, right? I mean, some of this is not comfy. It's not the default. And so part of you taking responsibility and being a leader and leading yourself is going where it's uncomfortable and starting to take action on some of these things that are not the default, and taking a stand for you and for your health and for your wellness and for how you feel. And there's a lot of this too that can be compounding, right? Where you can start to be like, man, I love myself more. I'm taking care of myself more. I'm, feel better about who I am and how I'm showing up. And I have more confidence in the way I look and the way I feel. And these are all real things that can come from starting to take some of these actions.
Yep. Yeah. If I had to summarize, what we've been talking about, once again, prioritize protein, maybe eat unprocessed foods, lift weights, move. You do those things every day, makes a big difference in how you feel, how you show up, your energy levels. Yeah. It's not rocket science. If someone tells you got to click on the course or click on their link and watch the 30-minute video about your body type in the special way, it's like, no, they're selling you something. And if you needed somebody, Matt and I aren't physical trainers, but we could direct you to some. So reach out if you're looking for help with that. We know a lot of good people that can help you if you need some more attention or more help. So, well, Matt, any last thoughts you got?
Start today. Today's the day.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us on the Everyday Leader podcast. If you're ready to take your leadership journey even further, subscribe to our weekly newsletter for more insights and practical tips. And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram to stay a part of our growing community. Just follow the links in the show notes. If this episode impacted you, please help us spread the word and share the link with a friend from wherever you're listening.